live radio. And because of that, things change. And I have somebody with me that I'm very excited to speak to, not just because he lives in Sweden. He's a writer and activist. His name is Jan Sjunnesson, I should say. I pronounced that pretty well. And he's joining me today to talk about a town council meeting that I just saw this morning on video, where these Swedish people are getting very upset with their councilman and what the town is planning to do. Welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot, Sam.
Wow, and we have a fantastic connection. This is the joy of live radio. This is amazing, and it's fantastic that you could come on at such short notice. First of all, the town council meeting was in Spånga, which is North Stockholm, right?
Right.
And it happened because they're planning to erect or install some sort of barracks or temporary housing. But by temporary, we mean, what, 5 to 7 years?
Right, 5 to 7 years.
For refugees, yes?
Well, there are migrants, I call them, because they usually don't have refugee status. Migrants who have permanent residence permit in Sweden. So in that sense, they're neither asylum seekers nor refugees.
Okay. The problem that the Swedes seem to feel is that they've already got issues with people of this ilk who don't hold their same values, who don't belong, who have a different cultural mindset, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
No, well, I mean, usually these kind of barracks are put up in the countryside, or rather, the migrants live in the countryside of Sweden. So what's happening now? For the first time, they're coming into the capital of Sweden, which is Stockholm, in what you call residential areas. And this particular barrack was to be erected at a school.
Right next to a school.
Right, about 20, 30 meters from the school.
Do you think these people, some of them might have gone online and seen what's happening in Germany, where they're telling the residents and the school children to behave a certain way so as not to antagonize the migrants or refugees that are near the school or living in the school gymnasium?
Yes, I think so. There's been a lot of more news around what's been happening all over Europe when the migrants have basically invaded Europe. When the Swedish election 2014 voted, they actually voted for pro-immigration policies. So you had 85% of the voters who were in favor of mass immigration, but now it's coming into their own backyard. And now it's saying, not in my backyard. So this is the classical NIMBY issue, when people say, generally, yes, I'm in favor of being generous to refugees, but no, I don't want them at my daughter's school.
But the thing is that why don't they understand that the generosity isn't just in somebody else's neighborhood? It's with their tax dollars, and it's going to affect them eventually.
I think people, well, at that time, 2014, we had about 50,000 migrants coming every year. What happened in 2015, that we got to 163,000, which is 400% increase. And that changed the whole question. But the politicians still feel that they have the support of, 87% of the people who voted in 2014, although the issue on the ground, I mean, the numbers have just been going up so amazingly.
The numbers against?
The numbers gone up from 40,000 in 2014.
Oh, those numbers, right.
To 163,000 people coming in 1 year, which is too much, of course.
Well,
and
here's the
majority of them are Muslim young men.
Yeah. And it's sort of like if I go to my neighbor and I say, hey, can you spot me $5 so I can buy a cup of coffee? And he says, yeah. And I say, okay, can you give me $50,000 because I need a new car? Well, wait a minute. I can't give you 5. I can do, but 50, no. And this is what these townspeople are saying. But more than that, they're bringing up this question of how are you planning to protect us? We already have issues with some of the people here who don't adhere to our cultural mores. And one of the people stood up and he said, we have problems on this street. We have problems on this. Like, he identified sort of pockets of conflict that they're already seeing. And they asked all these questions. And what was the response of the council?
There was none. They evaded the question. They said that we can't do anything. And in fact, there's a new legislation coming in just a month ago saying that all municipalities have to take in migrants. But of course they can protest. They can say this is enough. I mean, we can't take any more. But this particular council, they just evaded the question, and they were very rude to their parents who were anxious about their children, especially the girls, because we have a lot of sexual harassment and even rapes of teenagers around these migrant barracks in the countryside of Sweden. And I would say that this particular council meeting was getting out of hand, and this was the third council meeting I visited in a few months where parents were protesting, and the politicians have already decided that this is going to happen no matter what. So it's a problem of democracy too, that the parents and the people who live there have no say at all in these issues.
That's not democracy, that's totalitarianism.
Yes. This is a soft totalitarian state, yes.
Yeah, okay. I like that phrase, soft totalitarianism, because we all know what that means. That's how I rule my house, by the way. But it's not good for, like, generalized public.
No. It's like we have Hillary Clinton in every little municipality.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, I feel bad for you. Does she at least... Yeah. My producer just whispered he wondered if you were conservative.
Yes, I'm part of what you call a libertarian conservative, yeah. Right.
I want to ask you, because the town hall or the council meeting got a little bit out of hand, and that's in my experience. I lived in Sweden for a year. That would be considered unusual. Because Swedes tend to be very, very calm and they're not prone to sort of rage. But these people are saying what an interesting question that somebody brought up was how is it that you don't see that this is going to foment hatred? It was like a liberal who was whose eyes had been opened to what was actually happening, and the liberal was almost wanting to protect the refugees or the migrants because they were saying, how are you going to prevent the tremendous hatred that we're already seeing start up? And the answer was, next question, please.
It's very good that you understand the Swedish mentality. It's true. We're very, modest, and I would say we're more sheepish and meek. But these meetings, all the meetings I've been at the last 3 months, I've been very surprised because people say that you have blood on your hands and it's going to be violence. And as you said, this bleeding heart liberal, I think it was a woman or maybe a man. They put in saying that it's going to create not just hatred but also racism. So it's even the liberals are seeing the problems with this, that you're creating what you call we and them society, which is also uncommon in Sweden because we're very sort of open, we're very tolerant and very liberal. This is like living in New England, Massachusetts utopia. Sweden is the utopia of the New England liberalism. In that sense, this is Bernie Sanders' favorite country. And yet, even the liberal Swedes are feeling this is getting out of hand. And it's going to create and actually the U.S. is taking it as a bad example because people are saying, well, with this many refugees, we're going to create so many social divisions in society, it's going to be like the U.S. So it's...
By the way,
yeah.
Bernie's favorite country is Russia. We all know that because that's where he went, communist Russia, on his honeymoon. But yeah, you guys are facing down a substantial problem, because when you take in refugees, they have to want to assimilate, and these people have no intention of assimilating into your culture. In fact, they're planning a cultural coup. And I think that the Swedes are finally waking up. The question is, will they have woken up too late?
Yeah, that's what everyone is asking themselves and everyone else. Is it too late, or can we turn the tide? And I have a friend who's a professor of ethnology, a very learned man, and he's retired, and he's saying, well, it's on the brink, and he's been doing studies of anthropology, history, and ethnology for years, and he knows what he's talking about. And he's saying, well, these are what he calls irreversible processes, because if you give permanent residence to people who don't want to assimilate, who build up parallel societies in the suburbs especially, this kind of problem is just going to be perpetuating the next generation. And we had problems since the 80s with I would think it's the same idea as happening in the U.S., that the first generation immigrants behave very well. That happened in the U.K. too. The Pakistanis who came in the 50s and 60s, no problem. But the children and the grandchildren, so in Sweden we have people who came in the 60s and 70s, and their children and grandchildren are the problems, because they are misbehaving and they don't want to assimilate to society that the grandparents assimilated to. And
right.
Most people think that it takes one generation to assimilate, but if you have Muslim congregations, they can become more radicalized in the second and third generation.
That's right, and that's what we're seeing, especially in some studies that they've done in Britain now. That's exactly what we're seeing, is the children are more extremist than the parents who came to that country. I've got to take a break. I so appreciated having you on, Jan Sjunnesson. Thank you so much, and maybe we'll get you back on to follow up on this. This is the Sam Sorbo Show.